In this video, we reveal the 5 major masturbation mistakes that can leave you limp and embarrassed as you age. Make sure to watch until the end because what we cover may help you regain confidence and possibly change how you think about this. You settle in for a little self-care. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a moment to reconnect with yourself. But what used to feel automatic, even effortless, now feels clunky, or slow, or strangely disappointing. Maybe your erection doesn't feel as strong. Maybe it takes more effort or more stimulation just to get going. Or maybe you climax, but instead of feeling relief or satisfaction, you're left with a hollow sense of that didn't feel right. For some men, it's not one big change. It's a gradual drift. One day, it just hits you. You're not responding the way you used to. The connection between your mind and body feels dim, like a signal struggling to come through clearly. As you age, your body does change. Your nervous system shifts. Your blood flow may slow down. Your hormone levels might decline. But those changes don't mean pleasure has to disappear or that solo intimacy has to become frustrating. What it does mean is that your body needs a different kind of support now. And that includes looking more closely at how, when, and why you stimulate yourself, especially if you're noticing issues with erection strength, stamina, or satisfaction. Because while masturbation itself is not harmful, certain patterns, especially when repeated over time, can make things worse without you realizing it. Here's a common example. A man notices that his erection isn't as firm as it used to be. He assumes he just needs more stimulation, so he increases the frequency, or adds more visual input, or tries a more aggressive technique to feel something. But over time, these changes meant to help actually desensitize the nerves or increase the time it takes to respond. He thinks he's fixing the problem, but really, he's reinforcing the pattern that's keeping him stuck. Another man may avoid intimacy with a partner altogether, turning only to solo habits that feel safe. But with that comes changes in touch, rhythm, even body position, and suddenly his erection responds to only that one setup. Everything else feels off. And again, he's confused and often ashamed. These situations are more common than most people think, and they're not about weakness, addiction, or self-control. They're about biology and how our body's response to pleasure evolves over time. Think of it this way. The same exercise routine that kept you fit at 40 might wear you down at 65 if you don't adjust for what your body needs now. We'll break down the most common silent mistakes men over 50 make when it comes to solo stimulation and how small changes can create big shifts in your physical response. So let's gently clear the air by walking through 3 of the most common myths around masturbation and erection health and what the science actually says, especially for older men. Myth number 1. Masturbation causes erectile dysfunction. This one still shows up all the time in forums, on podcasts, even in some doctors' offices. And while it sounds convincing on the surface, the research says otherwise. Multiple large-scale studies, including those published by the Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic, show that masturbation itself, meaning the physical act, does not cause erectile dysfunction. There is no evidence that frequency alone leads to long-term damage to erectile tissues or hormone levels. So, why do some men feel like it is hurting them? Because it's not the act, it's the context. How you masturbate, when you do it, what patterns you repeat, how your body responds afterward, and how that compares to what your nervous system actually needs at this stage of life. In other words, masturbation isn't the problem, but certain patterns within it can silently reshape your arousal response in ways you may not notice until performance starts to slip. Myth number 2. If I'm still climaxing, everything must be working fine. This one trips up a lot of men, especially after 60. You may still climax. You may still ejaculate, but you've noticed your erection isn't as firm, or it takes longer to get started, or you're not waking up with morning erections the way you used to. These are not just minor inconveniences. They're signals. A study from the Journal of Sexual Medicine found that while orgasm and ejaculation are still possible with reduced blood flow or nerve function, the quality of erection is often the first thing to change, and one of the most important markers of vascular health in aging men. Think of it like this. You can still drive a car with a weak battery, but the lights might flicker, the ignition might hesitate, and sooner or later the whole system slows down. The same thing applies here. If your erection quality is declining, even if climax is still happening, it's a sign to pause and reevaluate. Not panic, not shame. Just understand the mechanics and take steps to support them. Myth number 3. If I'm having trouble getting or staying hard during masturbation, it must be psychological. This is a deeply ingrained belief and a frustrating one for many men. Yes, stress and mental distractions can affect affect erections. But for most men, physical causes are far more common than many realize, and ignoring that can delay getting real answers. A 2021 clinical review from the National Institutes of Health found that age-related erectile changes are primarily physical, especially in men over 55. The most common culprits? Reduced blood flow due to cardiovascular changes, nerve sensitivity decline, lower testosterone levels, pelvic muscle weakness, side effects from medications, like those for blood pressure or cholesterol. So if you're noticing softer erections during masturbation, the answer isn't to try harder or blame your mindset. And here's where it gets interesting. Many men accidentally train their bodies into rigid response loops without knowing it. Let's look at an example. A man feels his arousal slipping, so he starts relying on stronger and stronger visual stimuli, longer sessions, more aggressive techniques. It helps temporarily, but over time, his body starts requiring only that kind of intense input to respond. Then, when he's with a partner or trying to be intimate without all the extras, nothing happens. He assumes something is broken, but really his nervous system is just overadapted. This pattern, sometimes called stimulus conditioning, is well documented in clinical settings, and it affects solo experiences just as much as partnered ones. So now that we've cleared away the noise, let's go deeper into what's really happening under the surface. Let's start with blood flow. Your erection depends on healthy arteries, small, flexible, responsive blood vessels that can rapidly fill and trap blood in the penis when you're aroused. But here's the catch. Those vessels are some of the smallest in the body, and they're usually the first to show signs of aging. Think of them like an old garden hose. When it's new, water flows easily. The hose is flexible, smooth, and responsive, but over time, it stiffens. The walls thicken. You get tiny cracks, build up, reduced flexibility. Same hose, different outcome. That's what happens to your vascular system with age. Even if you don't have full-blown heart disease or high blood pressure, those subtle changes can reduce the speed and strength of blood flow during arousal. You might still get an erection, but it takes longer to build, and it may not stay firm without constant stimulation. And masturbation habits matter here. For example, if you're rushing through stimulation or relying on high-pressure techniques, like pressing against hard surfaces or gripping tightly, you may be interfering with that already delicate blood flow. Over time, this can dull the responsiveness of your vessels, making it harder to achieve or maintain the kind of firmness you want. Next, let's talk about nerves. As we age, the nerve endings involved in arousal can become less sensitive. This doesn't mean you stop feeling pleasure, but it may take more input or more time for those signals to register and create the same level of excitement. And here's where routine plays a big role. The nervous system adapts to patterns. So if your solo routine always follows the same steps, same visuals, same position, same timing, your body may become overly familiar. The stimulation feels repetitive, not exciting. It's like hearing the same song on repeat. At first, it gets your attention, but over time, you tune it out. Some men try to fix this by increasing the intensity, longer sessions, more extreme visuals, tighter grip. But this can backfire, overstimulating the nervous system and leaving you feeling disconnected from your own body. Instead, what your nerves really need is variety and gentleness. Changes in pressure, pace, rhythm, and even position can help re-engage the sensory system and restore sensitivity over time. Now, let's talk about the refractory period, one of the most overlooked shifts in male sexual health after 50. The refractory period is the recovery time your body needs after climax before it can respond again, physically, hormonally, and neurologically. In younger men, it might be minutes. In older men, it can be hours or even days. That's normal, but it becomes a problem when you expect your body to bounce back like it used to and then feel discouraged or alarmed when it doesn't. Here's what most men don't realize. The older your body gets, the more intentional rest you need between sessions. If you're stimulating yourself too frequently or without giving your nervous system time to reset, you can enter a kind of low-level burnout. Not emotional burnout, physical. Your nerves fire more slowly. Your blood vessels don't respond as fully. Your pelvic muscles, which help with rigidity and climax, may feel weaker or less coordinated. And over time, your entire system starts to underperform, even though your desire might still be there. That's one of the most confusing parts. The want is there, but the response doesn't follow. And if you've ever felt that disconnect, like your mind is interested but your body won't cooperate, this is almost always part of the reason. There's one more piece of the puzzle: hormones. Testosterone doesn't drop overnight, but even small, gradual declines can shift the way your body processes pleasure. It can affect your motivation, your morning erections, your response to touch, and even the way your brain interprets arousal. And if you're using the same stimulation routines you relied on for decades, but now with lower testosterone testosterone, slower blood flow, and less nerve sensitivity. You might start feeling like nothing works anymore. That's not failure. That's biology asking for an update. So, let's bring this full circle. You've learned that masturbation itself isn't the enemy. You've also seen how age-related shifts in blood flow, nerve sensitivity, and hormonal balance can reshape how your body responds, especially if your habits haven't changed in decades. So, what does the title of this video actually mean? It means that certain solo habits, while once harmless, can quietly start working against your erection strength if they aren't adapted to your current biology. And the mistake most men make isn't that they're doing it wrong. It's that they're doing it the same way they always have, without realizing their body has changed. So, let's get specific. Here are 5 of the most common masturbation mistakes men make, and the medically sound alternatives that can help support healthier, firmer, more satisfying erections. Mistake 1. Skipping recovery time between sessions. In your 20s or 30s, you could likely climax once or twice a day and bounce back with no problem. But after 50, especially after 60, your nervous system needs more time to reset. This isn't about slowing down as a weakness. It's about respecting the body's recovery rhythm. Most older men benefit from waiting at least 48 hours between intense solo sessions, especially if you've noticed a drop in firmness or sensation. Why this matters? The longer refractory period allows your blood vessels, nerves, and pelvic floor muscles to recalibrate. Overstimulating too often can keep your system in a constant low-grade state of fatigue, which dampens performance even when you feel mentally ready. Mistake 2. Using aggressive pressure or prone positions. Some men develop a pattern of pressing against firm surfaces like mattresses, couches, or even the floor. Others grip too tightly during stimulation. Both can create unnatural friction or pressure on sensitive erectile tissue, and over time, this can dull sensation or reduce blood flow efficiency. Why this matters? The penis is a vascular organ. It needs uncompressed space to fill properly. Repeated compression, especially in awkward angles or with hard surfaces, can interfere with that flow. It also conditions your body to respond only to that specific pressure, making other forms of touch less effective. Try instead. Use your hand gently, with varied pace and pressure, or explore more upright, relaxed positions that mimic the natural angle your body takes during partnered intimacy. This not only protects sensitive tissue, but also helps retrain your arousal response in healthier ways. Mistake 3. Relying heavily on intense visual stimuli. This one's more common than most men want to admit, but it matters. As arousal becomes harder to access with age, many men start relying on increasingly intense visual cues to stay engaged. The problem isn't the media itself, it's the level of intensity and the mental loop it creates. When your brain becomes conditioned to extreme stimuli, your real-life response system may become less sensitive or responsive. Why this matters? The brain's dopamine system, which fuels desire and motivation, gets overstimulated with constant novelty. This raises your threshold for excitement. That means regular stimulation no longer feels like enough, and your body may struggle to respond without that high intensity. Try this. Take short breaks from screens. Practice slow, non-visual arousal, using touch, breath, and imagination instead. Many men are surprised how this reconnects them with sensation they thought they had lost. Mistake 4. Ignoring erection quality during solo play. It's easy to assume that as long as you finish, everything is fine. But ignoring your erection quality, especially if it's consistently soft, short-lived, or requires constant stimulation, can delay early signs of vascular or hormonal changes. Why this matters? Your erection acts like a barometer for your cardiovascular and endocrine health. A weak erection during masturbation is often the first sign that blood flow or testosterone may be declining, even before other symptoms show up. What to do? Start using a simple erection hardness scale, like the Erection Hardness Score, EHS, to track changes. If you're consistently below a 3 or 4, meaning partial rigidity or short duration, it's worth speaking with your provider about testing blood pressure, testosterone, and metabolic markers. Mistake 5. Treating solo time as just release instead of recovery. This might be the most common and the most fixable. Too many men treat masturbation like a quick, mechanical task, something done out of habit, boredom, or stress. But at this stage of life, your body doesn't respond well to rush or repetition. What it needs is something closer to restoration. Why this matters? Your nervous system is more sensitive now. Rushing through stimulation increases tension, but slowing down, being mindful, and tuning into sensation can actually lower cortisol, improve blood flow, and even restore sexual sensitivity over time. Try this. Think of your solo time not as an activity, but as a reset, a moment of reconnection. Use slower rhythms. Engage your breath. Be curious rather than goal-driven. Over time, this helps your body relearn how to respond with less input and more satisfaction. What to expect when you make these changes. Don't expect an overnight transformation. That's not how biology works. But do expect to feel more in tune with your body, more connected to your arousal, and less dependent on stimulation patterns that no longer serve you. And that confidence, the sense that your body still can respond when treated the right way, is often the most powerful change of all. So try one of these tips this week. Just one. Track what changes. See what you feel. You might be surprised. If this video gave you clarity or made you feel a little less alone, consider subscribing or sharing it with someone who deserves real answers, not more myths. And always remember, all information provided in this video and channel is for educational and informational purposes only. Always consult a medical professional about your specific circumstances and before making any changes to your lifestyle, diet, supplements, or medication.